Right, okay. As mentioned in the previous lesson, we're going to be looking at a source question over this next video. Now, this question is probably one of the more difficult questions in the exam, but it's very important that we have an understanding of how we approach it. How useful is source A for an inquiry into the effects of hyperinflation in Germany? Now, this will always be question 3A on paper 3. In the exam, there will be two sources, not one. But this is exactly the same as the one we do in paper 1, and how you answer it is down to the word COP. Content. What does the source teach you about the topic? Back it up with a quote or description. Own knowledge. Support what the source teaches you. 3 to 4 lines of specific knowledge. And provenance. The provenance is the description of the source. So when we do this, we have to look at some key questions, and you only need to look at one useful reason and one less useful. So firstly, what type of source is it? Is it a diary? Is it a cartoon? Is it a newspaper article? What is it? Is that useful to us or less useful, and explain? Where does the source come from and when was it written? Was it written at the time of an event? Was it written as sort of a hindsight source? Was it written 10 years after, 20 years after? Useful or less useful? Explain why. Why has the source been produced? Has it been produced to make someone feel angry, sad? Has it been made to make an audience feel an emotion? Is that useful or less useful? Explain why. You only need to do one reason why the provenance is useful and less useful. This is the source that we're looking at. A cartoon published in Germany by left-wing magazine Simplicissimus in 1923. It had a caption, paper money at the top and bread at the bottom. If there's anything German on the sources in the exam, you will get given a breakdown, or you will get given the translation of this. That will not be something you need to know. So this is the content. People were suffering. I can see that from the anguished look on the woman's face, and also the fact there is a malnourished child in her hands. You could infer that it cost a lot of money for a loaf of bread, or the items cost a lot of money because the amount of money the woman's got around her, she's drowning in this money. Woman is trying to protect her child from hyperinflation. This was a really good answer that we received in class, because the woman's holding the child over her head. Children were starving from hyperinflation. You can see this very clearly because you can see the ribs of this child, and money was worthless because it was everywhere. The woman and the child could also be symbolic of Germany. That could be another sort of connotation you could make from this source. What knowledge have you got? People had to burn money to stay alive. The amount of pensioners that died during this period was actually up by 70%. Prices were changing by the hour. You could give the example of the coffee or meals, and restaurants couldn't print menus. The reason there's so much money is because of what happened in the Ruhr. You could talk about this. You could talk about children starving from hyperinflation, and about how a loaf of bread cost 200,000 billion. You could also mention that money was worthless. What could you link to that? You could link the fact that money was being printed constantly. People used it to burn. People threw it away. Children used it as toy building blocks because they couldn't afford toys. And lastly, the provenance. It doesn't need to be significantly detailed. Now, you can use your knowledge in the provenance. So if you said it was written at the time of the crisis, tell the examiner what was going on in 1923. You could say it's useful because it's more accurate, because the events are happening in real time. It's more focused. It's more of a real life event going on at that time. You could flip that and say it's less useful because of the fact that emotions involved, and the fact that people are going to be angry at the time because of how serious this event was. It's less useful for us as historians because this is a left-wing magazine. The government is central. So it's a one-sided argument. They might be making this to turn the people against the government. So it could be exaggerated, biased, one-sided. You could also say it's not useful in some places because some people actually benefited from hyperinflation. This only shows the situation of people that suffered. Does it show you the true effects? Well, no, because we know that there were a small minority of people that did benefit from hyperinflation. If you were to do this for both sources, so let's just do content for both sources, you'd get 2. Own knowledge and content for both sources, 4 to 5. Provenance, if it's good, between 7 and 8. That's a very quick overview on how to do this question. Keep it short, sweet, and simple.